Hey folks, in this video, I will show you how to implement the SMACSS methodology to organize our CSS files. If you're not familiar with SMACSS, please visit smacks.com and spend some time to read through the concepts listed. I recommend familiarizing yourself with the SMACSS categorization before continuing with this video. For demonstration, I will use the same code from our previous design to HTML exercise. Here we have an index.html and a main.css file. I'll split this main.css file into multiple smaller files as recommended by the SMACSS methodology. Let me go ahead and create 5 files, one for each SMACSS category. Base.css, layout.css, module.css, state.css, theme.css. So now let's focus on these files one by one. First up is the base.css. So we'll practice main.css here and let's go. So any CSS rule targeted at an HTML element should be placed in this base.css. No ID or class name, just the HTML element. So if you look at our main.css, we have 3 such rules. One is targeted at the body element. The other one is a global star selector, which means it targets every HTML element there is within the HTML file. And the third one is the HTML and body element. So these 3 rules will cut and paste it in the base.css. Next, we look at the layout.css. Let us understand which sections go into the layouts category. To understand this, let's look at the layout. So this is the layout that we developed in our previous design to HTML exercise. So any section of the page that is likely to appear across different pages of the website should be placed in the layouts file. In our example here, the header, the nav, and the footer sections are very likely to remain the same across all these different pages. Home, about us, services, contact us, login, everywhere the header, the nav, and the footer sections are going to remain the same. So these sections can be placed in the layouts file. So looking at our HTML, we don't have a specific class for header. We only have a class for logo. So let's move this logo into the layout.css under the header section. Then we have the nav. So we'll cut the entire nav section from here till here. And finally, we have the footer section. So the remaining part here is the main section. So the content in this section varies from page to page, so making it suitable for a module. So what we'll do is we'll move all this CSS rules pertaining to these classes from main.css into the module.css section. So we have the page content and the testimonial. I think we also have to move this entire this into the So we have two modules here. One is the page content, the other one is the testimonial. So we moved both these modules, CSS rules, into the module.css. Okay. Next, let's look at the state.css. SMACSS suggests that all rules pertaining to a state change should be placed here. For example, if an element is open or closed, hidden or expanded, or if an element is active or inactive, we select those rules and place it here. In our example, we have two state classes. One is the nav button menu, this is open, and the other one is the iPhone hidden. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to find all the rules that has these two state classes. One is open and the iPhone hidden. And we'll have to move all these rules into the state.css file. Let's start from the top, nav button. This is one rule. The iPhone hidden, another rule. And open plus the sidebar. So this also has to be inside the state because the state is affecting the property of the rule. And yeah, this one, the media query and the iPhone hidden part. Please note that this method of moving the state rules to a separate file is very unpopular. I'm demonstrating this only for the purpose of understanding the SMACSS methodology and its guidelines. I advise you not to move the state rules to a separate file if you are, actually at work or if you have a website that is used in production. Because more often than not, this method of decoupling the module or the layout and the state has resulted in a lot of bugs. So the last file will be the theme.css. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to find all the declarations that contain a color value and move them here. We'll start from base.css. We'll see if there is any declaration that has a color value and move it to theme.css. So, yeah, here we have background color. So, and size space between nav link. Nav sidebar. The other, yeah, the module. So then we'll also have to go through the module to see. Yes, there is another background color here for testimonial. Testimonial. That's it. In state, we'd like there won't be any colors, and here we have the themes. So this way, it is easier to add support for multiple color themes. If I wanted to add support for a dark theme, what I would do is I'd make a copy of this theme.css and replace all these color values suitably and include it in my project. So finally, uh, let us import all these 5 different files into our main.css file so that we can just link the main.css file in our HTML instead of linking all these 5 different files here. So add import base.css, add import layout.css, import.css, state.css, .css. Now let me go back to the browser and hit refresh, and I don't see any change at all. So I can go ahead and actually look at the, if you look at the properties there now, you can now see that it is coming from base.css, the body. And if I look at header, logo, it shows that it is coming from layout.css. And main page content, it comes from module.css. Right? There's another way of, I guess you can just click on any of the, there's a sources tab here. There's a sources tab, you look at main.css, it shows that it is imported from all these different files, and that's what it's using up here. Finally, since we have a lot of CSS files, it becomes a bit confusing over a period of time which ones to import into the CSS file and which one to import into HTML file. So a common convention is prepend all the CSS files with an underscore to denote that they are imported into another CSS file and not directly linked to HTML file. In our case, we have to rename base, layout, module, state, and theme with a prefix them with a underscore. So base, layout, module, state. So now I have only one CSS file that is without a prefixed underscore. So I know that this is the CSS file I have to link with my HTML. This is because we have to add a underscore. So that's it.